As we all know, there are bikes and there are super bikes. Well, thanks to KTM, we now also know that there are adventure bikes and super adventure bikes. And what better place to have a super touring adventure and test this new model out than here in Mpumalanga, where we are at the actual divide between the high felt and the low felt. Keep on going past this viewpoint known as the Pinnacle, and you'll soon find yourself on the lunch menu of something with very big teeth that calls the Kruger Park its home. Stay up here on the high felt though, and you'll be rewarded with some of the finest roads in the world. A perfect environment to test a bike that KTM bills as the ideal mix of travel enduro and luxurious tourer. It's certainly a big, imposing piece of kit, but then if you want a healthy dollop of luxury with your adventure, size comes with the territory. And as you can see, its generous proportions don't stop it being a handsome bike. Much of the size is down to a huge 30-litre tank and a weird sort of double screen that is manually adjustable and offers excellent protection. There's a lot of interesting electrical gadgets going on here, from height-adjustable heated seats and grips to self-cancelling indicators and cruise control. But perhaps the most innovative are the extra lights in the front fairing, which light up in stages the further you lean, providing illumination for cornering. The steel tubular chassis and swing arm has been borrowed directly from the 1190 Adventure, and it houses the massive 1301cc V-twin that first appeared in last year's Super Duke. The Brembo brakes, which offer huge stopping power, are also very clever thanks to the Bosch cornering ABS. That helps you get the maximum out of them even while leaned over mid-turn. Spoked wheels and dual-purpose rubber reinforce the fact that this tourer can do its job both on and off-road. And you'll notice that the suspension has been treated to a dose of electricity too. That's so the WP units can offer a semi-active ride for dealing with ever-changing riding styles and road conditions. Since this is a luxury tourer, I decided to ride it like that, briskly rather than brain out. But that's easier said than done, because with 160 horsepower and a mighty tidal wave of torque that's available from ridiculously low RPM, the temptation is to start behaving like you're chasing Dunlop on a lap of the Isle of Man TT. Make no mistake, this is a properly fast bike, so you'll be reassured to know that its handling is as confidence-inspiring as many full-on sport bikes. The front end on dual-purpose bikes can often feel a bit vague thanks to the larger, thinner front wheel, but not here. The Super Adventure has got the sort of feedback that doesn't mind if you take your brain out and start behaving like someone's got a stopwatch on you. Semi-active suspension is very clever too. I need more time on the bike to get used to the four options, but in its comfort setting you can feel it stiffening the forks under braking and firming up the rear shock when you really give it a good handful of throttle. And with all the electronic riding aids, there's a safety net should you find yourself getting too carried away. There's 4 riding modes, including off-road and rain, which cut the power to 100 bhp, while the other 2 keep the full horsepower but adjust throttle response and traction control settings. If you want to fiddle further, you can. ABS can be adjusted so that it's on only at the front, or you can turn it off altogether. Traction control has similar levels of adjustability, so it's possible to really tailor the bike to suit your individual needs. What KTM has built here is quite possibly the best genuine all-rounder that's ever been made. On or off-road, it has got the goods to give you the bike you're looking for. Luxury tourer or humdrum commuter, sport bike or Sunday cruiser, it really doesn't matter what you ask of it. Super Adventure is capable of fulfilling all your riding requirements.
So, Matt, it does actually seem like you quite like that bike, but we need a second opinion. And luckily, Don, you were not only on the South African launch, you were on the world launch as well. So what's your opinion?
Much the same as his, utterly brilliant. I mean, the fact is we've got a bike making 160 horsepower. I mean, I used to race, Matt also, 10 years ago, we were racing super bikes that we were saying, how do we control all this horsepower? And they made 160. And
For a semi-off-road bike.
And now we've got a semi-off-road bike doing 160 horsepower, making the same horsepower as a super bike that we couldn't control 10 years ago.
Flipping heck. But now there must be something that you both dislike.
Too much button pushing. They've got this system that because you've got an amazing ability to tailor what you get from the bike, so you can have kind of ABSs that are on the front and not on the back. You can set your traction control levels. If you want to turn it off completely, you can. But unfortunately, every time you turn the ignition off after your ride, you've had all your settings set. It goes back to a default setting, and then when you start up again, you've got to push all the random buttons. All your mates have disappeared. You can, I believe, you can buy a dongle,
Yeah,
can't you?
you can buy a dongle that actually put in whatever you set up to one setting and it stays there.
But you've got to buy it.
You've got to buy it.
It's a bit of a cheek, isn't it? But I think it's to cover their arses, their behinds. When it comes to the international audience, mainly the American audience, I think,
exactly.
where they're so litigious, they'll sue you, if for any reason whatsoever. So that's a bit annoying. Anything else? Well,
Okay, well, it's got semi-active suspension. Now, if you want to be like us and try and be John McGuinness around those turns, it can be a little bit annoying because it's sort of interfering in a way. It's like you know what a bike is supposed to do. It's supposed to dive the front end and do this, but with that suspension, it's not doing what you want it to do or what you expect it to do, which is a bit
that's the thing I found, it's never quite as consistent as you imagine. You're never actually 100% sure what response you're going to get from the suspension. So I think it'll work for the vast majority of riders.
Saying that, when you're, dare I say, Joe Average, sitting with your wife on the back, having a great touring time, you're not going to notice. It's going to be spectacular. And I think if we rode it a bit more and actually got used to that suspension...
Yes, I think time
will change our mind,
definitely make a difference.
So, OK, it's time to put your money where your mouth is. Let's pull up the spec box. What TomTom heart rating are we going to give this bike?
Well, I think we were talking earlier between ourselves, Donovan and myself, and we're reckoning 4.5. It is so close to perfection, but just the suspension...
all right, guy with his wife on the back, suspension's perfect.
Yeah, sure.
I think more the buttons.
The button pushing is incredibly irritating.
So it's lost half the heart for the buttons.
Yeah.
They just had a big button that said traction control, a big button that said ABS that you can push anytime you like. It would give 5 out of 5.
You can't believe how irritating it becomes. It really is annoying, and you would buy that dongle. So, 4.5 I think is fair.
OK, now 220,000 rand for the bike. That gives an Iron Horse premium of about 750 rand.
Which is pretty good, but
Which is
price,
220.
220.
Now that is bang on BMW GS adventure territory.
All the stuff you get with it, I mean, it's amazing. You get that electronic, that semi-active suspension, you get heated grips, heated seat, heated passenger seat, you get
slide control, slip control, hill
ABS,
assist starting, corner.
You get everything with it for that price.
So at 220, it is one of the best bargains of the year, really.
So final conclusion? Thumbs up, thumbs
Brilliant.
down?
Well, it's weird that it's called a super adventure, so you think, wow, it's even more adventurous than the rest of the bikes in the range. It isn't really. It's a luxury kind of tour,
they
isn't
call
it?
it luxury adventure. They haven't used the word more adventure, but luxury. So it takes you where you want to go, more luxurious.
Yes.
So really, it probably doesn't have any obvious rivals then?
Well, GS Adventure, in terms of its tank size, but it's much more luxurious, it's much more powerful than that. Look, there's a Ducati Multistrada. Look, I know it has mag wheels, it's much more road-oriented, but again, that comes with semi-active suspension. It comes in at about 225,000 rand as well. So it's in the ballpark, but really, it's almost without peer, isn't it?
There's nothing that directly compares with it.
Well, there you go. We absolutely love the KTM Super Adventure. We will be back after the break with two very unusual chaps who seem intent on setting themselves on fire for some reason.